looking for her very own sunshine. All alone in her fate. Many roads to travel time, but she don't mind. Lost child.
Again, here we are today, another day on the Russ, Meek Speak Show. Lester Blair here as a host, guest host, to talk about what's happening here in America. And we have a very special guest today to talk about more about AI. He's going to give us more information of what you need to know, what you need to learn, and how you need to make things happen in your book to see exactly what this world is going to change into. But for me today, I'm here to tell you about what's making money, what's making people happy, and how my daughter's going to get through med school next year. It's going to be one of those wild worlds. Well, hey, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But today, I have an interesting guest. What are we going to talk about today, sir?
So, unless you've been living in a cave deep inside the earth, you've heard about AI, artificial intelligence.
A little bit about it.
And the major issue that keeps popping up in any direction that you look is jobs. And the great fear that AI is going to replace everybody's job and nobody's going to have any work. And if I don't have any work, how do I earn money and buy food and all this other
Does
stuff?
that mean that I can retire?
Retirement, that's another topic, because I tend to think that retirement is pretty much dead.
Okay. So you said we're not going to be able to retire. You're going to have to do something.
You're going to have to do something. If only for mental and physical health, you're going to have to be engaged in some form of activity. But with the jobs front and AI, it's being overblown. So throughout the course of this hour, you're going to hear me say, we've been here before, and I'm going to talk about nuances. Every major technology that I have dealt with, and I've been at this for 5+ decades, I look at history. What we're going through right now happened when we learned how to manage fire. It happened when we learned how to manage the steam engine, when we went to internal combustion, electricity, telephones, computers, internet. We've been here before. There's disruption. Human beings talk about wanting change and having things different, but when you get down to the basic psychological level, we're pretty much like to have things a certain way with very little change to that certain way. And so the issue with AI and jobs is, unlike previous technologies where we dealt with the physical aspects of jobs, we are now dealing with the intellectual aspects. And for most of us, that's been the safest place. No machine can replace my brain. No technology can replace the way I'm thinking. And now what we're discovering is that we can do a pretty good job of mimicking your thought process. You're going to hear me talk about nuances, the little subtleties that AI does not know how to deal with. So relative to jobs, it's called disruption.
Okay.
So if you're in certain types of jobs, you're going to be disrupted. But let's go back to the horse and buggy versus the automobile. When the automobiles became effective, we didn't go out and kill all the horses right away.
Still need a horse.
Okay. We didn't go out and burn all the buggies right away. Because it took a while for the number of cars to reach a critical point where trying to mix horse and buggy and car on the same roadway became dangerous for both the horses and the cars.
Got it.
So once we reached that tipping point, then horse and buggies disappeared pretty quickly, but it took a while to get there. So because it took a while, human beings were able to adjust. With technology today, and let's talk about ChatGPT. I don't have any stock in them and I don't want to pick on them, but ChatGPT went from being something that was available to having millions of people using it in a matter of weeks.
Yes, and the stock has done very well.
Yeah, okay. So you're on the financial side, so you know about that. I tend to be in the tech trenches, so I know about that. So the end result was people got a hold of a very powerful technology and started using it and misusing it and abusing it. And the criminals got a hold of it as well. And I only mention the criminals because the criminals, they have their own set of rules and laws, and they don't mesh with ours, the non-criminal side. So the end result is you've got a situation where technology shows up and very quickly it becomes widespread, with people not fully understanding how to properly use it, people getting answers that confirm their own suspicions, their own biases, their own goals, and they've been starting using it.
Got it.
The pricing was set up in such a way that it was readily affordable to a lot of people, which also helped to speed its spread. Because when I can get a mental assistant, that is the AI, ChatGPT or Claude or some of the other ones, when I can get access to the wealth of the world's information for $20 a month, hey, if it means I can spend more time doing the things I want to do while the AI handles the things that I don't want to do, I'm happy with that.
It's an easy call.
It's an easy call. And if I learn how to get the AI to make money for me, well, that's even better. So I can go play over here and do whatever I want to do and have the money being made over there. But what has happened is we are rapidly approaching $1 trillion worth of investment in the AI world.
Okay.
And that money was not printed up in somebody's basement. That comes from banks, that comes from funders, investors, and they're looking for their return. And where the disconnect comes in is the adoption rate was done in weeks, but the return on investment is looking to be years.
Got it.
And so people who put their money up for this are going like, what do you mean I'm not going to see a return in 3 months or 6 months or whatever?
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit longer.
Yeah, it's going to be longer than that. And the more the creators understand what they're creating and how it works, because there's still not a whole lot of clarity on how the AI actually works. So when you go over and you talk to the brain surgeons, you talk to the medical area, they will tell you chemically and structurally, and our bodies do run off of electricity, very small amounts of electricity. They will tell you, practically speaking, this is how the brain works. And they will talk about neural connections and neural pathways and elasticity of the brain and all this good stuff. But in a very, very basic, down-to-earth foundation level, we're still not clear on how the brain works.
Got it. It's got a huge number of components,
Yeah.
different types of things that go in and out on a by minute basis.
By
So-
second basis and
Yes.
fractions of a second basis. And so we're building this thing called AI, a mechanical version of that. And if you don't truly understand the model that you're building something and basing something on, then that means the thing you're creating has a certain amount of unreliability.
Got it.
And so as they're dealing with this, in the AI world, it's called hallucinations. They're just beginning to create software where they can actually look at the AI as it works. So in the medical field, we can give you an injection with a dye in it. It's not going to kill you or anything like that. It just basically allows the organ that the dye is going to accumulate in to show up on a scanner. So we can give you an injection, put you in an MRI scanner, and watch to see where in your brain there might be blockages, where there might be chemical interactions misfiring. So we're starting to do the same kind of thing with software with AI, so that we can get a better understanding of how this AI actually works.
How much time is this going to take?
Time comes back to money. Okay. So it's how much money is available, and if I have enough money available, then I can get the human talent to focus on this. And so I would say with the speed of the artificial intelligence that's going on right now, and artificial intelligence is in fact helping medical people solve some issues. So there's a growing interconnectedness between the two. I'm going to do something dangerous, and I'm going to say we're probably looking at a couple of years.
Couple of years.
Couple of years.
Okay.
So for the folks who are investing, don't look for any returns at the end of this year. Don't look for any returns next year. It's probably where we can repeat with certainty. So in the world that I live in of computer technology, when people call me up and they have a problem and I ask them questions, one of the questions is, does it always happen this way? How frequently does it happen? Does it always happen in the morning or the afternoon? And they go, it always happens in the morning. Why are you asking? I say, well, if it always happens, we're going to solve this pretty quickly. But the problem that occurs in the mornings, in the afternoons, on the weekends, in the middle of the night, we have to find the causes. We have to find the causative precursors, as I like to refer to them. We have to find the precursors. What conditions causes this problem to happen?
Because I know that we talked about this before. One of my favorite companies, NVIDIA, which we've made a ton of money for clients on, has taken a modest $10,000 investment. I'm taking it to millions of dollars in a 5-year period. A major move by NVIDIA. Doesn't happen like that every day, though. That's, again, I think a very rare situation. There are some good companies, and there's a lot of AI companies out there today that are doing a lot of good work, but it's not going to happen for every company.
Well, NVIDIA is facing a problem which comes back to the jobs. So Edmund Burke was an author of a book that I read a long time ago, and the title of the book was called Connections. And what he talked about is something happens in one country and that information dribbles over to another country, and something that wasn't possible before now happens. And so we have the ability to connect a lot of dots today. A lot of people don't take the time, they don't even understand that certain things are connected. So NVIDIA employs a bunch of people. The products that NVIDIA produces further employs a bunch of people. But that product has to be used in a particular setting. That setting we now know is called a data center. And so there are different levels of data centers. So when you have a lot of NVIDIA equipment in the data center, you may be known as a hyper data center. So jobs are important because that's how people get money to do things with the money. When you build a data center, you're going to have, depending upon the size of the data center that you're building for AI, you're going to have somewhere between 500 to as many as 4,000 people working on the construction of that data center.
Okay.
So that's a lot of jobs, which causes a lot of municipalities and geographies to say, hey, we need those jobs here for the people who live here. Well, when you step back a couple of steps farther, you start to realize we have a global population problem. The birth rate is leveling off, and in many countries, the birth rate is descending. It's going down. In other words, we've hit peak birth rate. Why is that a problem? I was talking with an individual. She's a veterinarian student. She's into her second year of veterinary school. She's already $150,000 in debt.
Just starting.
Okay, and she's only in her second year. She's got 2 more years after this one, and I'm thinking that's a hell of a amount of debt to be carrying into your first full-time job.
Right.
But let's get back to these data centers. What people didn't understand is that with the AI that we're building, the more hardware you throw at it and the more data you throw at it, the better your answers. So we move from having small data centers to medium-sized data centers to large data centers to hyper centers, as some people refer to them.
So how many people are we talking about in these hyper centers?
Well, this is where it gets really shocking to people. The construction aspect can have thousands of people, and they're not necessarily always with the data center. So you build a data center where you have ready access to electricity, and water and cheap land.
Okay.
You don't always have the necessary labor to build that data center there. So now you bring in data from other areas, and suddenly you have a housing problem. So now you're doing construction on the data center, and you're doing construction on housing to house the people. And people say, well, there are mobile homes and stuff like that. Yeah, but you still need electricity for the housing units. You need water for the housing units. You need sewage, that kind of stuff for the housing units.
Right.
And the problem is you can build a data center depending upon where you are, the climate conditions, a number of other things which I won't go into. From start to finish, you can build the building and equip it 18 months, 2 years, 30 months, 2.5 years.
Right.
Then you have a collapse of labor. You don't need those 4,000 people anymore. You only need maybe 100, 150 people.
Okay, so we've downsized from the need of these thousands of
So
employees.
suddenly you've gone from here, which is your little community, your politicians, elected officials, get a data center, you have a rapid rise in labor. You're up here for a year, 2 years, and whatnot. And then you have a cliff. And the problem here now is the municipality, the village, the town, has probably gone, maybe with the assistance of the state, has gone and got bonds to build the infrastructure to support this population of 4,000 or 5,000 people who are only there for 2 years.
So we've now created this environment.
So what's your bond? Your bond is 20 years, and suddenly you don't have the people to pay the bond anymore.
Okay, so we got this debt, and we don't have the population of people that can help us support this.
So you got 100 people in the data center running 24 hours a day. So at any given point, you only got 20 or 30 people there. Okay, you need maybe a dozen specialty electrical people, technicians, and whatnot. So your town population goes from a couple of thousand, maybe 5,000, to 10 or 12,000, and then it drops back to maybe 6,000. You've got this debt, and the computers are doing the work. So that's the impact of jobs relative to the data center. You've built additional capacity electrically, so you get a few more jobs over there electrically. You've got sewage issues, water issues for that population that you built, and the data center needs water, so you have a few more people there, but you don't have anywhere near the number of people you had at the peak. Now, if we spread that out to companies who are reliant on that data center, companies are already, they're still dealing with the COVID issue of where remote work came in. So suddenly, we're finally getting people back into the office, and because I've gotten used to, as a company, not having all that equipment, excuse me, that computer equipment I had in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, because I farmed that out to different types of data center. Now, people are saying, why do I need to be in the office?
You can work remotely.
And if the AI is able to do 20%, 30% of what we'll call the low value but necessary work, why do I even need people to do that?
Don't.
Companies have been misled into believing I don't need the entry-level people anymore. And the reality is, yeah, you do. Because the entry-level people are the ones who learn how your company works. And today's entry-level people become next week's mid-level people, who become next month's senior people. So I'm going to go to the farm for the moment. Most people don't understand, and I didn't understand until I was doing research on a lot of different things, that most farmers borrow money to put the crop in the ground.
Right.
They borrow money to buy the seeds. They borrow money to get the fertilizers. They borrow money to get the pesticides. They borrow money to deal with their equipment. And they sit there and they do the calculation that says, this is the amount of money I borrow for all of these things. And if the weather, which they do not control, if the bugs, which they can only impact with the pesticides, if the marketplace, who's going to buy what I grow, cooperates, then I should make enough money to be able to cover all those bills and have something left over.
That's the plan.
That's the plan, okay? And if that plan works out, that makes my banker comfortable with me when I show up next year to go through this process all over again.
Okay.
But if the weather's bad, if the bugs show up, if something else, if the marketplace crashes, then I come up short. And once I put the seed in the ground, I'm stuck, okay? Well, when I go to the AI world, and let's go back to your friends with NVIDIA. NVIDIA says we're making the current model is the H200. That's the bleeding edge, that's the leading edge to drive the AI stuff. Jensen Huang, top guy there, says, hey, I'm going to tell you right now, we've already got the H300, okay, the next new thing. We're already planning to start the manufacturing of that. So I'm a company sitting out there going, wait a minute. I'm in line to buy the H200s because the way they're manufactured, I can't just go down to the local store and buy a couple of thousand of these things.
Right.
You know, I'm in line. I'm number 6 in line. I'm number 12 in line to buy this. So NVIDIA's making their money because in order to get in line, you got to put some money down. Okay, that's your deposit on your order for 10,000 of these things. And when your 10,000 are made, we expect you to pay the rest of the money at that particular point.
Okay.
So I'm keeping people employed that way. But you're a company who's now beginning to understand that this AI is not as simple as you were led to believe. Because the techno backers have said, hey, just roll this AI in and you can increase your profit, you can reduce your head count, you can get faster this. We like to call it frictionless. In the tech world, we call it frictionless, which basically means there are fewer points where you stop to check to see what's going on. You're so confident, you just say, hey, agent, do this, and it goes off and does it.
It's going to be a self-sufficient system.
Right. So the business is sitting there saying, what's my biggest cost of operation? And it's head count. So if I can reduce the head count, that allows me to operate more financially efficiently. And let's cut out all the jargon and say, hey, the profit that goes in my pocket gets bigger. And the profit that goes in my pocket has to come through the investors. So the investors give me $5 million, and I show them a return on that $5 million in a reasonably short period of time. That keeps the investors happy. If the investors are happy, then my pay goes up, my bonuses.
And my easiest way to
Okay.
increase profitability is to do the
Cut head count.
Right.
But what they're finding out, and this has shown up, and most people are not hearing about this because it hasn't shown up in the news the way it's going to be showing up in the next few months. There are companies who did massive layoffs, thousands. If you're not in the tech world, you're not aware of the fact that in 2025, more than 100,000 people just in the tech world were laid off. The first part of this year, we laid off close to, when I say 100,000, it's closer to 1 million. The first half of this year, we've laid off several 100,000. So the jobs there have been hit hard because the belief is if I just get AI in, then I can reduce my head count.
Got it. I can cut my cost.
Cut my cost. What they're finding out, and here comes the term that I call nuances. There's so much to a job, almost any job, that is unwritten. A lot of places, if you think pharmaceutical companies, if you think Procter & Gamble, you think food companies, they have recipes. And so the recipe is set, it's documented, we know. You get this much of ingredient A, this much of ingredient B, this much of ingredient C, you mix it together with this amount of water, this amount of seasoning, in this kind of container for this period of time, you come out with a finished product. A lot of the intellectual or white-collar work doesn't work that way. I'm having a conversation with you, I say something that upsets you, you may not hop up and yell and scream, but there's a little nonverbal thing. You lean your head a certain way. There's a certain expression that flashes across your face. Your eyebrows do things. AI doesn't know how to deal with that. And so that new employee who's coming in fresh out of college, they are learning the ropes. They are learning the nuances of how that business works. They are learning that don't call Jean-Paul before this time of the morning, okay? Or don't call him at this time of the day, or he has told you he is tied up. So if you have to call him and he's told you he's tied up, it had better be a 7-bell fire alarm reason to call him. Those are the little nuances that AI doesn't know. AI simply knows, hey, a condition occurs, call Lester. Lester's not available right now. AI doesn't know that because AI doesn't have all the information that Lester has about what he's doing today. And these are the things that companies are running into. They've fed the AI the data, all the data that they thought the AI needed, and they're now finding out there's other types of data that AI needs that they haven't fed it. And so suddenly, very quietly, it's now been at least a half a dozen more companies who have laid off people at significant levels. When I say significant levels, I mean hundreds and thousands, who are now struggling to get those people back.
Again, we're not talking about just your average individuals. We're talking about some highly skilled, highly paid individuals that are being let go. Again, a lot of them being let go with bonuses and things of that nature. They still have money coming in, but right now we have revenues that are not coming into the systems anymore because they don't have a job. So the question is right now, what do we tell the government that right now we're going to have the tax revenues are not going to be there because we had to let go of these people? Your highly paid AI programming people are not there. So what do we do?
Well, there's complexity, like there's always complexity because everything seems to be connected to each other. So at the policy level, the government level, they are now starting to deal with the question of, do we tax the AI? When the AI was in a box, we had already taxed the box. Okay. You paid sales tax on the box. The electricity, we've already taxed that. The infrastructure, we've already taxed that. Now we're taxing thinking. And how do you tax thinking? Well, you can say there's an end result, but we already tax end results. How do we tax thinking? Now that we've said the AI is no longer restricted to a box, it is now mobile. Roombas, lawnmowers, other devices, and now we have humanoid robots. Oh, humanoid robots. And the humanoid robots, why do they look like us? Because we have a physical world that is designed for upright bipedal biological entities.
Got it. Now, question: are we going to be seeing the techos getting taxed?
Well, that's the question that the government agencies are starting to deal with, because some people, even from the technology community, are saying, if we're going to displace human beings from jobs, where does the tax revenue come from? Because you're paying personal income taxes. Companies are paying taxes. And so that's a big issue. Some companies are now talking, one of the Chinese companies are saying that they're ramping up for production 10,000 robots a month.
Okay.
And if you have robots building robots, it doesn't take very long before you can replace all of the human beings with robots. Okay, so there's that issue. So let's get back to the biological entity, me and you. What do we do? And I'm telling people, stop trying to avoid AI. It's already here. And it's been here in a form that you didn't recognize. The difference between what was before and what was now is before the decisions were cast in concrete. When you made a phone call and you dealt with that answering system, you were dealing with a very dumb, stable, static AI. Now, when you make a phone call and there's an AI driving that phone system, it wants to ask you questions. You call up, you answer, and it says, hey, thank you for calling XYZ Corporation. It presents you with a set of options. You pick an option, and then the voice comes in and says, oh, you've chosen to talk to technical support. Can you give me some information about the technical problem you're having so I can route you to the proper person?
Okay.
That's no longer static. That's an AI sitting there saying, I'm going to take the words you give me, I'm going to put those words into something I understand, its own internal lingo called tokens, and I'm going to do a pattern match with what you described against a set of patterns that says, oh, you want to talk to this particular type of technician as opposed to a general purpose technician. It then goes over and says, are one of the qualified level 2 technicians available? And if so, I'm going to connect you. But then it may come back and say, can you give me some more information? What's your account number? What equipment you have, et cetera, et cetera. AI again is sitting there making decisions about, before I connect you to this technician, I'm going to bring information. I'm going to look up your account. I'm going to know what equipment you've got. I'm also going to check to see if you paid the bill.
Okay. That's the bigger issue.
That's important, okay, because I'm now hearing phone systems that tell you up front, if you are not on a maintenance agreement, there will be a charge for this bill, for this phone call. So be prepared for that. And some people are even going far enough to say, because you're calling in for technical support, you must have the equipment that we produce. You must have the software that we put on that equipment. So give me your credit card up front, because otherwise you wouldn't be calling, because we've given you enough information, documentation, training, etc. So the AI is now being able to pull a lot of information together, then give it to the target technician, the one I'm going to connect you with. So that technician can come up to speed before you ever talk to them. They know what equipment you've got. They know what software you've got. They've looked at to see if you're current, if you're up to date, based upon their systems interacting with your systems. They can look to see what problems have occurred with that particular version of the system. So the jobs that AI are producing, you haven't seen all of them yet. But the jobs they are producing require more of this working than most people realize.
Okay.
Because now, how many times have you talked to somebody where they've asked you the questions, and for the third time you're giving answers to those questions, because you were asked those questions 2 minutes ago and you answered them. You were asked those questions 5 minutes ago and you answered them. And now the customer service person is trying to figure out why you're hostile, why you're angry. Well, with the AI, you can solve all of that problem. I can play some soothing music while I'm collecting all of this information and bringing that technician up to speed, so that when you talk to the technician, they can say, I got your file here in front of us. I see what your equipment is. I've noticed that you're experiencing this problem. Is that true? That's a totally different interaction now. Okay? You don't have to explain everything all over again. And that technician can say, oh, how does the technician do this? They could do this now sitting there typing away madly, but if with the AI in place, the AI can do it much faster.
Got it.
So let's move farther out from the job.
Okay.
When we moved from horse and buggy to cars, we created a whole new range of jobs that didn't exist before. The buggy makers, some of them became employed in making auto bodies. They took the skills that they had in making buggies and carriages and transferred that skill to making car bodies. Because you got to have seats on the buggies, the buckboard, the carriages, you got to have seats in the cars. So some of the skills are transferable. There are jobs that will come about as the adoption of AI, the humanoid version. So now you're going to have a mechanic technician who knows how to repair and fix the robotics. You're going to have an increase in the networking, because the AI is going to be talking to lots of other things across the networks. The repair of the equipment, you're going to have different levels of jobs there. So we just have to get through the disruption.
Okay.
That's the thing. And it's hard to tell a person who has done one particular job and gotten pretty good at it to very good at it and say, hey, this job can truly be done by an artificial intelligence. A lot of what I'm seeing is the artificial intelligence can make your job easier. It does not replace you, but it takes away all of the grunt work. That's why the companies who are making great strides and being very quiet about it, because they don't want to give away their operational advantage.
Give away the secret sauce.
Okay. Research.
Yeah.
These are companies that are already structured. They know how to do research. They know how to document. They know how to validate the answers that they see. They are used to having controlled, well-designed experiments. Most of the business world is pretty messy. I did consulting in Global 500 for 25, 30 years. And I could come into a situation and understand we have a lot of human beings here with a lot of idiosyncrasies, but they managed to work together to produce something viable for that company. But when you want to make a change, you are threatening each and every individual, because I'm asking you to stop doing the thing that you're doing almost automatically.
Okay.
You're not thinking about it. I'm now asking you to think. And that lesson was driven home to me when I was doing some consulting down in Texas, and one of the participants in the training consulting process I was going through said to me, her clients, staffers at the company, they were looking for the Staples easy button. Staples had a commercial with a big red button that said easy. And I said, what do you mean they're looking for the easy button? And she says, they just want to slap the easy button and it gets done.
It's over.
And it's over. And I said, well, it doesn't work that way. And she said, look, people don't want to think. And my clients are saying to me, don't make me think. I pointed at it, fix it. Okay. And can you do it in a hurry? And most importantly, can you do it at a very small cost?
And you mentioned that earlier today we were talking, client coming to you saying, don't make me think. What does it, don't make me think, mean?
Well, I struggled with that for a while. It means I don't have to pay attention to all of the factors that go into producing a result.
Okay.
So there's a thing I refer to, intellectual bandwidth. So when work needs to be done, there are things you need to pay attention to. And over time, you develop a memory, you develop a skill set around those things.
Okay.
So if I go to something like cooking, okay, I learned to cook. I'm not a chef, so I'm not saying anything like that. I learned to do the basics because my mother taught me. She said, I'm going to teach you how to cook. And I complained, as little boys tend to do, and she said, I don't care. You're going to learn how to cook. Because if you don't get married, are you going to starve to death because you don't know how to cook?
Your mom never taught me how to cook.
And my position was I can always go buy food. And she says, yeah, assuming that you have money. But if you have money and you buy the ingredients, you can have a lot more meals for the same amount of money. And I thought, oh, that's a pretty good idea.
That's efficient, Mom. I can do that.
So the end result is, when you look at work in the intellectual world, it's not always obvious the things you need to pay attention to. So I've heard the expression, experts make it look easy. And people believe because it looks so easy, they can do it. But if you don't have the knowledge and the practical application of the knowledge that the expert has, you're going to very soon find out it's not as easy as it looks. So when I talk about don't make me think, what people are really saying is just get it done. The same way when I throw the light switch, I don't think about how the light switch actually works. I don't think about how it works relative to the light. All I know is if the switch is down, the light is off, and if the switch is up, the light is on.
Got it.
And that's all I care about. Okay. As a technical person, I understand that the light switch, depending upon which way you orient it, because yes, there is a proper way to orient the light switch. Okay.
How is that? I never heard that one.
Okay. So if it's up, I want the lights to turn on. Well, I understand that you're closing an electrical connection. And because you've closed it, you now allow that energy to flow all the way up to the light, which illuminates, and you have light. And when you break that connection, the light goes off.
Okay.
And I tell people, when you start your car, you get in the car, you insert the key. Now this is before the electric cars. Okay, you insert the key, you turn the key in a certain direction, you hear noises. Okay, and if those are the noises that you normally hear, you're good. You now put the car in gear and you drive off.
Okay.
As a technical person, I go like, well, wait a minute. You insert the key, you're closing an electrical circuit. That circuit is kicking off the starter motor. The starter motor is engaging the main motor. And when the main motor gets up to a certain amount of revolutions and the firing of the spark plugs is appropriate, now you can engage the transmission and drive off.
Okay.
And people look at me and go like, you are weird.
It's like, hey,
you are weird, okay?
you just turn the key, the car will start.
That's an engineer, okay? Now with electric cars, you don't turn the key anymore. You get in the car and the fob on your keychain says, oh, Lester's in the car.
Yeah, or I need to fingerprint.
And you press the button and the car starts. Now you can go off. And if you have a self-driving car or a partially self-driving car, you may not even touch the steering wheel. I've seen cars that back themselves out of the garage. When you come out, you hit the button on the fob, garage door opens up, car starts up, car backs out, stops next to you, garage door closes. This is don't make me think.
Okay. Now, question. Don't make me think model. Do I pay you less when I don't have to make you think? Or is this just the normal process that's developing?
Well, here comes the contradiction. Okay. I still want the same amount of money that I was getting when I was thinking.
Okay.
I still want that same amount of money. But as a business, you're sitting there going like, I've got a robot, humanoid robot, I've got AI, and it's much cheaper than you are.
Then I'm not going to pay you.
Okay. The AI operates within a certain temperature ranges. The AI operates within a certain electrical frequency range. The robot operates within certain space configurations and stuff like that. Does the robot come to me and say, I want a vacation?
No.
Does the robot come to me and say, ooh, I stumped my toe and my knee hurts? No. Okay.
I was told the robot will work 365 days out of the year.
So
No vacation.
So when I look at the job level human beings versus robots, what I see is the robot, and my first complaint was, well, you know, the battery on the robot's going to run down. A couple of weeks later, I saw a robot that can change its own battery.
Okay.
I'm going like, uh-oh.
Plus, it can change the tire.
So the robot, I've seen two models. One robot backs up to the battery rack, and its arms rotate behind its back, and it takes its own battery out because it's got cameras on the backside.
Okay.
Grabs a charged battery, puts it back in, makes the connections, the arms rotate around to the front again, and it's off and going. I've seen a different robot that walks up to the battery rack, okay, and its battery is in its chest. And it basically says, hey, take it out, put another one in. I've seen a different robot that does a 180-degree thing. Its legs are still facing this way, but its upper torso is looking that way, and it changes its battery. So now there's no longer a problem of, well, it's running down on battery, because the internal system says, hey, you're at 20%. This is where you are in the building. This is where the battery racks are. You have enough energy to get to the battery rack. So it now communicates to the AI that's running the factory, hey, unit 5678 is going for a battery swap. The AI says, bring another unit in to take the place of that unit while it's doing a battery swap.
Is this going to be the standard model where, hey, we're going to have automated systems that are going to be self-sufficient and you don't have to worry about what's going on?
There are operations in China right now where they've already gone that far. the number of people, and this, I look at a lot of things globally because equipment comes from all over the place. And clients ask me, when are you going to have this piece of equipment? When is it going to be in? When is it going to be working? And I have to explain to them the supply chain and how long it takes to get there. And they listen to me mostly politely, but they still come back with, when are you going to have it done?
Okay.
In China, they have already converted factories to what they call lights out operation.
Okay.
There are no human beings in the factory.
No humans.
No humans. The human beings are sitting in an office, like the technical guys are sitting here running the cameras and whatnot. Right. That's where the human beings are. And they're literally sitting there just watching monitors. And those individuals have been trained to deal with certain types of problems that occur on the factory floor. Other individuals are on call. They're not even in the building. They're at home somewhere. But they know you're on call for the next 12 hours, so don't get involved with anything. So if there's a problem at the factory that the person who is there can't fix, then your phone rings.
Yeah, this is the system.
That's a factory that used to have 3,000, 4,000 people.
Yeah.
Now they got 100.
And that's the way we're going right now. We're not talking about humans being here to run factories and machinery and things of that nature anymore, but we have automated systems with machines that are going to be able to do the job.
So what happens to the human being? This is the question.
Go play golf.
Okay. Well, you can only play golf for so long. And how are you going to get paid for playing golf? So I tell people, don't avoid it because it's already here. Embrace it. Learn how to work with it. AI does not create something from nothing. Human beings do that. We have all kinds of ideas. And so, as with every technology, it starts out simple and then it gets more complicated. And as it gets more complicated, those are new jobs.
We've gone through a huge amount of information in a short period of time, and we don't have a lot of time left here. What are the main things that you wanted to really get out today to tell people about what's happening tomorrow?
Change is coming. It's already here. It's never going to go away. Human beings will always have a place. You just have to get used to the idea that the place you have today may not be the place you have next year. If you are embracing change, then the transition is easier.
Okay.
And there's always unexpected results from change. We don't have the ability to get so predictable, so predictive with change. There's always unexpected consequences.
So should we be telling our legislators that, hey, we're anti-AI?
No. We should be telling our legislators to either work with people who understand it so that the regulations can be appropriate. When the creators are asking for regulations, that's when you really should be paying some attention. And our elected officials, for the most part, have to cover a very broad range of things, and so they do it very shallowly, whereas we need depth. And so that's where you need to work with people who understand the depth. We need regulations on AI. Okay. I mean, some of the things that people are doing with it are really scary. Other things are very helpful and will create newer jobs in the future. So, will some jobs that exist now go away? Yeah, that's what happened with horse and buggy. That's what happened before we put trains in place. That's what happened before the internet came in. But at the same time, we created new jobs. We just have to get through the disruption period.
It's one of those things where life changes on a rapid basis, and we only have so much time. Yep. I'm the only one that I know I'm going to live at least a few thousand years.
Well, okay. Medically, I know we're supposed to be good for 120.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, I'm going to go beyond the norm. I'm going to be the Michael Jordan of time.
Well, okay. I sometimes wonder if, on the one hand, it sounds interesting to say live a couple of 100 years, but I look back at how much technology has changed in my being involved with it. And then I wonder, do you really want to live a couple of 100 years? Because that might be scarier than dying young.
But just think of how many wives I can have.
well, okay. You're into the whys.
Oh God!
No.
It's just one of those things. You just think about life and what we need to see. For me, I'm interested in seeing the universe. We got millions of planets that are floating around.